the equity is going to be preferred, then it's going to be common. Okay? All right. So the preferred bonds, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. So the liabilities, demand deposits or checking accounts, right? The time deposits or CDs, right? There's a maturity date attached to them. And then we have the bonds. What's the difference in terms of liability between the bond and the checking account? Because this makes a big difference for Basel. See, you guys, some of you guys I had in the fall, right? We talked about Modigliani, Miller, and corporations borrowing money and all that kind of stuff.
The bonds could be long-term in the...
Yeah, bonds are longer term, but why does that make them any different? You know, when you talk corporate finance, you don't distinguish. You say it's debt. But this time it makes an important distinction when you go into banks.
Because it's a future obligation, they can't demand it right now.
Well, yeah, it's a slower repayment stream. But I guess what I'm trying to get at is the moral hazard aspects of this. All right? If for some reason you don't trust your bank, all right? You give your money to the bank. So let's say Citibank, whatever bank, right? You put $1,000 in your checking account, or you put $5,000 into their bonds, and the bonds are due in 5 years. All right? All of a sudden, you start reading things you don't like about Citibank. With the checking account, what can you do?
Pull it out.
Pull it out.
Yep.
Bonds, but the bonds you can't. All right? So what makes this kind of important is this becomes known as Tier 2 capital. Notice it's a liability. The bank owes you this money. But for regulatory purposes, it's considered to be equity. Capital. The cushion against the loans. And the reason they do that is because you can't pull your money out of the bonds right away. Are we okay with this? It's considered to be equity under the Basel rules. Yes. But they call it Tier 2. Now the equity, whether it's preferred or common stock, that's Tier 1. So what they're allowed to do is make this 3.5%, and this is allowed to be 4.5%. Combined, that has to add up to 8%. Okay? No? You see, it's not really 8%, is the point I'm trying to make. They really only have 4.5%. And you should understand the importance of that. What's that 4.5% mean? It means if they lose 4.5% on their loans, what happens? Suppose they're all credit card loans, right? And 5% of the credit card people say, I'm not paying you back, I can't. I lost my job.
That means they're 5%
The
the
equity
whole.
goes to what?
They have nothing.
Nothing, right? They're bankrupt as a bank. Right? Does everybody follow? So for regulatory purposes, they say, well, you also have this too, if you want to use this. See, banks don't really like to use this because this costs them like 6-7% right now. Checking accounts cost them what?
Nothing.
Nothing, right? So they much rather use the checking accounts. Right? Much rather. Right? But the Basel Accord say, no, you can't just rely on checking accounts. You gotta have 8% capital. What we'll do, as a concession, we'll let you make 3.5% of it bonds, but it's gotta be 8% between the bonds and the equity. But the equity has to be 4.5. All right, just to review for test purposes and stuff, what's the point of 4.5% equity? For test purposes at least? Nobody tells General Motors you gotta have 4.5%. Nobody tells General Electric you gotta have 4.5%. Nobody tells IBM you gotta have 4.5%, but if it's Citibank, you gotta have 4.5%. Why?
They have public money.
Well, even before the public money came in, every bank has to have this. Some banks don't have public money. But that's actually accentuated, that's a good point. What's the point to say you gotta have 4.5% of this money from the stockholders? Yeah, but why force
So
them?
they have some skin in the game if
That's
everything
right,
goes.
make them feel pain.
Yeah, but can I have a very simple question, because I don't understand the difference between, like, why would loans be on one side but CDs not, and be on the other
No,
side?
no, loans are what they lend out.
Right? But a CD is.
A CD is what they take in. That's how they
So
borrow.
what they pay out on the CD is not considered any sort of.
That's not a liability, that's income.
How do you, if you pay out a CD, if a bank pays out a CD,
Well,
why
it's
is it
kind of like you got a utility bill at home, right?
Right.
Is that a liability?
for me?
It's not a liability, it's an expense,
Okay,
right?
yeah,
It doesn't go on your balance sheet, it goes on your income statement, right?
right, okay, I see what you're saying.
I mean, you gotta pay Con Edison, I would presume it's Con Edison, I don't know. But-
PSE&G, but.
Oh, okay, PSE&G, all right, so you pay PSE&G probably once a month, I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's an expense, that's not a liability,
Okay,
right? All right, so it's to make them feel pain. And if they know they can feel pain, what will they do?
be a little more
Try to
cautious.
avoid
Be
it.
a little more careful, right? Get done this for the test, right? It's very
This
important.
is the moral hazard?
Yeah, because, you know, everything that's going on right now with the bankers and the bonuses, wait a second, they didn't feel any pain, and now you're giving them millions of dollars.